Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be breaking down the early data mined abilities for Heimdall in Marvel Contest of Champions 19.1, courtesy of JJW in the unofficial MCOC podcast. So we've got to give a massive shout out to JJW and the podcast for putting this document together. And if you want to check out this document itself and take it at your own pace, or if you want to check out the podcast, a link to both of them will be in the description below. But damn, ladies and gentlemen, we are potentially looking at the foundations of a meta-shaking character. It looks like in terms of Heimdall, and the best champion to potentially counter him is also Heimdall, but there are a few characters that I think are going to do quite well against him. However, if you thought Medusa was a pain in the ass, I feel like you are not going to enjoy reading Heimdall's abilities too much. However, let's talk about some of the interesting stuff he does, and I'm just trying to think of kind of a good way to summarize this character. Maybe a combination of like Hela, Angela, and Corvus, potentially. He looks very, very interesting. So let's start off with some of his abilities. So we have Armor Charge. When struck by or blocking an opponent's attack, Heimdall will gain a passive armor charge. On reaching 100 of these charges, they're going to convert into an armor buff, which will increase his armor for a certain amount of seconds. However, if he lands a heavy attack with either the armor or the fury, it's going to convert that buff into a permanent one, which can also stack up to a certain amount of times as well. So also when striking or being blocked by an opponent, Heimdall is going to gain a passive fury, and again works exactly the same way as the armor there. So if you're playing Heimdall, you're mostly going to see the fury, and if you're fighting him, you're mostly going to see the armor. And if you're playing him, you want to use the heavy attacks once you get to 100, to convert the fury you get into a passive one to keep that damage going up and up and up. Now here is the very fun and interactive potential fiesta here. We have the wonderful True Strike mechanic, which we love to see on a character, man, because there's Infinity War Iron Man, there's Medusas at the moment, we got Wasp as well now, also Domino, a lot of evade champions, a lot of auto block champions coming into the meta. So every time he activates a special attack, Heimdall gains a permanent True Strike buff as long as he doesn't already have one active, but this buff is lost if Heimdall is struck. So while True Strike is active, Heimdall's attacks cannot be avoided with dexterity. He can trigger the parry mastery against projectiles and has a chance to auto block basic attacks that will trigger parry. So let's talk about this from two perspectives, and the first one is offense. Offense, this looks insane because you got permanent True Strike, always active, no auto block, no parry, you don't need to worry about evade characters as well. So this seems very, very strong for a lot of the most annoying matchups in Marvel Contest of Champions at the moment, which might make him immediately one of the top tier attackers when it comes to Alliance War. But I think, you know, the stuff that remains to be seen is how powerful is the damage going to be, how powerful is the fury, is he going to get enemies down before the time runs out, and also the fact that this character doesn't seem to have a lot of debuffs as well might make him really good for that like really super annoying node 30 in Alliance War, but I'm not really too sure about that one. However, the more concerning thing about this potential True Strike is the fact that every time he activates it, so I assume right at the start of the special attack, he's going to gain this True Strike buff, which means that you cannot dexterity any of his special attacks, which means you need to either like get well back on the special one, which I'm assuming is kind of a melee, a physical attack there, but I think his special 2 is a projectile, so you're going to have to block the special 2, very similar to Domino there, so a little bit more potential fun and interactive damage, but it might be quite easy to fight if you just have to evade the special one and get your in there. I think via heavy attacks, and also if you parry and attack into Heimdall, I think that is a way to trigger, you know, the True Strike and get rid of it without triggering auto block. And potentially as well, there are counters like Corvus with his True Strike. We've got, you know, the wonderful Karnak as well, and a few other characters that can get through the auto block mechanic there that does trigger parry. Potentially Killmonger as well might be a solution to Heimdall. So I think there are a few solutions, but this is one that remains to be seen exactly how fun it's going to be. And then the line just repeats itself a few times. But yeah, that seems very, very interesting on the True Strike, and I think Just offensively, that could have some great value, and if you're playing Heimdall against Heimdall, then I assume if you're not getting hit, then you are not going to have to worry about, triggering auto block there. So he might be one of the best counters, but it's whether or not it's a direct hit or blocked hit that actually removes the true strike there, which will, determine whether or not the character is usable and super good for a lot of players. But then we have his special attacks, so the special one, Heimdall wields his Euro Sword Hofound with powerful sweeping blows, combining his natural strength with enhancements woven into the blade by Odin himself. So I imagine this is going to be one where you can just dash back and you don't need to rely on dexterity to avoid. So maybe when it comes to the monthly event quest, bait the special one, win the video game is the tactic to potentially go for there. And also has a chance to armor break the opponent once for each Fury buff, more than armor up buff currently active on Heimdall. These armor breaks reduce armor and last for a certain amount of seconds, and also he has a chance to gain a power gain buff for each armor up buff more than Fury buffs active on Heimdall, and these power gains grant a certain amount of max power over a certain amount of seconds. So it's either Fury or power gain on the special one, depending on if you have more armor or Fury, but I assume if you're playing the character you are going to have, the Fury, and if you'll find the character, he's going to have some more power gain there, which might be a massive pain in the ass to deal with. So, yeah, we're going to have to see on that one. And then we have the special 2, so channeling the cosmic power of the stars themselves, Heimdall unleashes a blast of blue flame of terrifying power, and it has a chance to stun the opponent for a certain amount of seconds if you have at least one Fury buff, and has a chance to be unblockable if you have at least one armor buff. So potentially unblockable projectile special 2 that you can't block or evade. So yeah, I don't know, it seems a little bit fun, a little bit interactive, and I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work and how you're going to get around it, but yeah, maybe don't get him to the special 2 is potentially the tactic there, but we're going to have to see. And then finally we have the special 3, which is Master of the Bifrost. Heimdall unlocks the Bifrost, unleashing the power of the Rainbow Bridge itself upon his opponent. Has a chance to grant an aptitude buff, which increases the potency of armor, fury, and precision by a certain amount of seconds. And the precision is gained from his awakened ability, which is all-seeing. So Heimdall's senses allow him to prepare for threats before they come and strike with deadly accuracy when they arrive. So Heimdall gains a certain amount of chance to trigger a precision buff, increasing crit rating by a certain amount and lasting for a certain amount of seconds each time a true strike buff activates on him. So I'm not too sure if you already have true strike and like use a special, whether or not that is going to refresh there and give you more precision, but yeah, we're gonna have to see on that one. And also Heimdall converts all of the buffs active on him at the end of the previous fight into power start the fight, with a power gain buff granting a certain percent of his max power per buff converted at the beginning of the fight. So yes, this could be really, really annoying on Alliance War Defense. So he's gonna start maybe with a chunk of power depending on how many buffs he got the previous fight. So yeah, might be really fun to play, might be really, really annoying to fight. I'm a little bit concerned. I am a little bit curious about how difficult it is going to be to fight Heimdall and whether or not they're going to be any super fun and interactive interactions, especially with that power gain and maybe like a power start 1 node. He could be very, very annoying if he immediately goes into something like an unblockable special 2, but I guess he actually does need the armor up buff to instantly go into something like an unblockable special 2. So maybe you're going to be able to manage him in the majority of scenarios, but I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I do not know. Those abilities, they do terrify me a little bit, especially when it comes to defense, but also equally on offense. He looks like he's going to be a great character to play, ton of damage, and also permanent true strike, so that's great for dealing with a lot of our big pain in the asses at the moment. But yeah, I feel like a Heimdall versus Heimdall meta is just around the corner, but we'll have to see what happens. And then we have the synergies, which I am very, very interested to see. So the synergies for Heimdall don't apply to Heimdall, it's everybody else. So he's kind of the guardian, the gatekeeper, watching over the rest of his team. So there are 4 different ones, and I'm not too sure exactly who they combine with and trigger off, but it's all champions except Heimdall on all 4 of these. So the first one is once per fight, Heimdall will intercede on your behalf, dash back and hold block for 1.5 seconds to gain an infinite duration precision buff, which increases crit rating by a certain percent. And just thinking about like a potentially interesting use for that, like Ghost gains like additional damage based on the buff she has with the Ant-Man synergy, so maybe that's going to make her even more overpowered, which could be a little bit curious. But I imagine for certain characters with like very, very low crit rate, maybe this is going to be a very beneficial synergy as well. The next one is once per fight, Heimdall will intercede on your behalf, dash back and hold block for 1.5 seconds to gain an infinite duration fury buff, increasing attack by a certain amount of your base attack there. So that's going to be, I assume, really, really good for certain high attack characters. Going to make them even better. Then we also have once per fight, Heimdall will intercede on your behalf for the first time when you would be knocked out, gain both an indestructible and unstoppable buff, which lasts for 3 seconds. So I'm thinking like Heimdall, like Hela, Angela synergy, and maybe like Hulk thrown in there. There's going to be maybe some pretty crazy stuff you could do with multiple cheat deaths. So I don't know. That might be a pretty crazy synergy to have. And then finally, we have once per fight, Heimdall will intercede on your behalf, dash back and hold block for 1.5 seconds to regenerate a certain percentage of missing health instantly. So yeah, it could be really, really interesting, the Heimdall synergy, especially when it comes to something like Alliance Quest, for example, or like a really long mission, because every single fight you can just start, you can dash back, hold block for 1.5 seconds, or maybe in the duration where your opponent's using a special attack, you get Fury, you get Precision, you get to regenerate a little bit. And then maybe you also have Heimdall watching over the team, but it really depends, you know, how you build this team and what characters it triggers with. But I don't know, there's some very, very interesting potential with the synergies in this character. I'm a little bit worried that he's going to be very, very fun and interactive on defense, but that is really my only concern. I feel like when you're playing this character, he's going to be super fun to play. He looks awesome, like a really, really stacked version of Angela that's even more effective. Kind of Angela Corvus hybrid there. So yeah, I'm very curious, but ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of Heimdall? Let me know in the comment section below. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching today's Heimdall abilities breakdown video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to smash that like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. Apart from that, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.